morning. Today is Thursday, May 7th, and there's a special holiday coming up this weekend. It is Mother's Day this Sunday on May 10th. So I thought that today we've been talking about writing letters and making cards and sending postcards. So I thought I would do something kind of along those lines. And I'm going to show you how to make a very special Mother's Day card for your mother or any, mother-like figure that you have in your life. And also the skills that you pick up through this video, you can also use them in other art projects that don't have to be cards necessarily, but they could be. So I hope you enjoy today's project. Okay, we're going to try to do this with limited supplies today. So we're going to start with a piece of cardboard that I got from a cereal box. I just cut a rectangle out of it, and now we have this beautiful brown cardboard to use as our base. Then the other materials you're going to need is probably some glue, maybe a glue stick, some scissors. You're going to need a pencil, and maybe a pen or a marker, a small marker. And as far as papers, because what we're going to be doing is layering things on top of this cardboard. So as far as papers, you can use anything that you can find around the house that your parents don't mind you cutting up or using. If you have a piece of gift wrap paper that makes a really good surface, you can use the decorations that are already on there. If you have a magazine that your parents don't mind you using, you can get a lot of pictures and textures and even like just backgrounds from magazines. So there's a lot of interesting pictures, especially with advertising, that you can cut out little pieces of and use that in your art. If you don't have a magazine, one thing that most of us do get is junk mail or advertising. So even something like this pizza thing, you can cut out this and it makes a design, it makes a background, and it's interesting to look at. You also sometimes come across some, nice pictures that you can use. You might think that you can't use these kinds of pictures, but you can, because if you zoom in and crop different things, you're not going to be able to tell what it is, but you're just going to see the textures of it and the colors of it. There's some roses, there's a lot of things you can use just in your mailbox. So look around your house and see, what kinds of things you can find that you can use to make this project. If you can find a sheet of just regular typing paper or even notebook paper, that is perfectly fine too. We will make it work. The main technique that we're going to be using today is collage. And collage, remember, is when you layer things on top of each other. So we're going to have different things or different papers or different materials that we're going to be putting on top of this cardboard. Okay, the first thing you're going to want to do is turn this beautiful brown side to the back, and we're going to flip it over to the side that has the printed, and this is the side that we're going to cover. So the first thing you want to do to cover it is find some kind of neutral, larger pieces to put to make a background. So I'm going to start with my piece of gift wrap or printed paper. I'm not going to need a large sheet, so I'm going to cut this down a little bit. And then I like the look of torn paper. So I want the corner to be still a 90-degree angle so that I can put it on top of the edge of my paper. But I want the other part to kind of be more diagonal, but I want it to look torn. So I'm going to take the edge and very carefully start tearing it. And see how this leaves like that little white kind of fuzzy part? I really like the way that looks. So I'm going to tear that. And it only has the fuzzy edgy part on one side. The other one, as you can see, the edgy part, the fuzzy part is on the back. So that's not really going to help me for this. So I want it to be on the front. So if I want to use this paper also, this side, I have to do the same thing, starting at the top and then very carefully tearing it. And if it leaves a big piece like that, I like that even better. So I want this nice jagged edge. And I might put them like this if I want to. So the whole time you're doing it, you're designing this yourself. So maybe I could have it like that and have something different on this side. I could have them still diagonally from each other like this. Or we can, think about something else. I kind of like the way this looks. I might leave it like that. And we're not gluing anything down now because this is just the planning stages. What I like to do, instead of trying to cut out of the page, I like to tear the whole page out, and that way it makes it easier later on to cut things out. So I'm looking for background images now. Anything that has words on it is not really going to help me. If you're making this for your mom, you kind of, there's a certain, it depends on the person you're making this for, what their tastes are, or what you want to really do with your art, kind of like the mood that you want to express. So I have already found like a pattern in the things that I've cut out, and I'm looking at subdued or soft colors, but there's a lot of green in this that I'm really liking. So when I started tearing things out, I'm looking now for like a greenish color because it kind of all goes together. So that's just something that I noticed that my eyes are being drawn to right now. We're going to see what I can do with the little pieces that I found. I'm taking out the part that has the crust because that's the part that most looks like a pizza. But if you look at just this, you can't really tell that much what it is. And from this one, what I really liked was the color and maybe some of this design right here. So the next thing you're going to do is put everything together and glue the bottom layers first. You have to determine which ones are the ones that go on the bottom. Sometimes that's a little tricky. So I'm pushing this like mint green one underneath everything because I want some things to appear. I really like this curve. The orange one is also one that has to go in the very, very back. And I'm holding those two down because they're the most important ones for the beginning. And then I have to figure out what goes next. So as you figure out which layer goes next, then you can start gluing those things on top. And you'll notice that I first just put like a dot of glue. I don't put very much glue. So in case I have to move them, I can still do that. But after I figure out that is really where I want it, then I go back and I add a little bit more glue, especially to the edges. So you'll see me pick up some little corners of the papers to make sure everything gets glued down. Now it's time to put the other little layers on top of this one. So I'm going to find now my brighter colored paper that I want to put on top so it'll be a lot more visible. And then I might use either notebook paper or this white paper to make, what I'm planning on doing is making little flaps that open up here and there. So I'm going to go back to my magazine, and this time I'm looking for bright colors and bright, patterns. Okay, so now I have all these little pieces, and I'm probably, as you can see, like this is not going to all fit on my card. My card it's a big card, or it's a big paper, but not all this is going to fit. So I have to now pick and choose the things that I'm going to. But if you don't use it for this project, you can always save them for something else. So I like to keep a little box like this. These I get at Half Price Books. They have this section where they have a bunch of like journals and blank books and cards for different things. So I like to get my thank you cards there, and they come in this nice little box. So inside of it, I like to keep little things, little knickknacks or whatever that I can later use to decorate whatever cards or art projects. So these types of little scraps that might not use this time, I will save them in a little box like this, or you can put them in a baggie. I'm probably not going to use like this snail, but I might use it later. So out of all of these things, I think my favorite ones right now are these three. Even though they have writing, they actually, I don't know if you can tell, but they have a little bit of writing on the flower pot itself. I might make a new flower pot out of a different color or something, but for now I really like these three. So a lot of times you never know what you're going to actually end up using, but you cut everything just the same because you might end up using it. It takes a little bit more time that way, but it helps your creative process when you look at it. And it's already been trimmed, so you can really see the size of it and the colors of it and what it will look like and which things go together. The rest of these, there's a theme here. The roses, not so much. I have a lot of fruit, which is really just fruit. I might save those for another time. I really like these two designs because they stand out because they're different. I like this, and I might cut this heart out. Alright, now I've narrowed it down a bit, and what I'm looking for right now, I really want the focus of this card to be these little flowers. So I want to look for a background because I need everything to be in rectangles or squares, which are called quadrilaterals. And so I'm looking now for backgrounds. What I want to show you is how I'm going to make these into little flaps. So I kind of want to, again, I'm going back to my original background, and I'm going to lay these out. If you'll notice, I love this little strip that I found, and I want to put this right in the center of that to kind of tie everything together. And then I'm going to arrange these around the card just to see how much room I have to play with. This one I'm not that thrilled about, so I'm going to leave that one to the end, but I really like these other ones. Some people, this is like a personal taste. Some people like for everything to be straight up and down everywhere, or you can also make them kind of crooked, but you don't want everything to be crooked in the same way. So like if I were to move these this way, and this way, see how they're all like the same direction? You kind of want it to look like, I mean, if you're going to go with the kind of sideways type of thing, you want them to look like you just kind of scattered them around. And so they would be at different angles. So these two are kind of the same angle. I would probably go with maybe here. And see how the flowers are also going in that direction? I might flip this one so it's going in a different direction than the flowers. And this one, for some reason, these are like the anchors of this whole, layout. So I kind of want this one to be up and down somewhere, and this one to be up and down. I kind of don't want to move those. I want to keep those for stability. And also the banner that goes on top. I could, make it crooked, but for now I'm going to leave it straight. These two now are going in the same direction, so I'm going to switch this one up again to a different angle. Now these two are in the same direction, so I'm going to switch this one. Okay, so for this you're going to need a plain piece of paper. It can be, well, you can make it construction paper, white typing paper, or copy paper, or it can be notebook paper. It just has to be thin. You can't really use cardstock for this because it's going to be a little bit too thick to work with. So you need something thin, and then you're going to take one of these quadrilateral things that you've already cut out, and you're going to put it on the edge. What you're going to be doing is cutting out another quadrilateral, another rectangle that is double the size of what you have. So you're kind of just estimating how big this is, or you can put it down on the corner. Put your finger down to mark where the edge is and then scoot it over. If it's a little bit too big, that's fine. If it's a little too small, that's okay also, but you're just kind of estimating. Then you're going to take your pencil and mark where you're cutting. So I'm just making a tiny mark right here, mark on that corner, and kind of going, I'm just making little marks across that so that I know where to cut. So now that I have this, the next thing I'm going to do is glue this quadrilateral down to the white paper. So I will take my glue, I'm going to go along the edge. Probably shouldn't do it on top of that paper, but you should have, you know how we have messy mats at school? Get your own messy mat here with a scrap paper. And you're going to put glue all along the edges of the little paper. And then this, now be really careful, because remember, you're not putting it on the left edge, you're going to put it on the right edge. You're going to align it with the corner. It can be overlapping a little bit, that's fine. You don't really want to see the white paper, but you can cover it. And set this down, and then press it down flat. Okay, and then the last step is to pick up the whole thing and fold it in half. So you're folding the white paper over. And then you have a little mini card. Right? You're going to do this with all of those little quadrilaterals that you had. When you're done with one, what I would recommend is taking your layout, Because remember, we already planned this and putting it back in the spot where you wanted it to be so we don't forget where everything goes. And if you want to make any adjustments to it, then some. So I'm seeing that these two purple ones are kind of very similar. So just like I did with the yellow ones where I wanted to spread them out, I kind of want to spread these guys out too. So I might make a change here. And I'm going to make another mini card out of this one. So again, I'm going to first calculate how much I need. I want to save my paper as much as possible. I'm going to come down here. Now when you're trimming, this is also something I failed to mention before. You want to make sure you know where the fold is, because if I have the fold on the top part, I don't want to trim this off, because if I were to cut right here, it would just leave me with 2 pieces of paper. So make sure you don't trim there. It's okay if it has a little bit of white on the corner. Okay, if you want to make another mini card with a shape that is not a quadrilateral, you can do that as well. It's just a little bit trickier. You have to kind of imagine the quadrilateral around this heart. So it's about this size. Again, mark where the edge of it is, scoot it over, leave room for the edge, leave room around the edge of the shape. And then you're going to kind of mark, for this one I would probably draw it since you don't have that guide. Kind of draw where that line's going to be. Once you have your quadrilateral, you're going to glue the shape again to the side and make sure that it's inside the white paper. And then put it down, making sure to leave a little bit of white space all around it. Then when you fold it again, make sure you leave some space on this side of the heart. If you fold the edges, you should be all right. And fold it in half. And there's your card. Okay, so now I have all my little cards made. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 cards, plus some other little designs that I want to put on here. Now you have some options here. One thing you could do is take each one of these out individually, set this aside, and then open up your card and write your note to your mom, or draw a picture in here, or make whatever little design you want to do, and then put this back, and then do the same thing for all of them before you glue everything down. Or if you want to, you can glue everything down first. I think I'm going to do that option of gluing everything down first. I'm going to start with this strip. So I'm actually, and everything is like multi-step. So the first thing I want to do is glue the sign of Happy Mother's Day to the strip. So the last step is to glue the flowers, the 2 little flowers with their flower pot, to the edges of your card. Make sure that you don't glue them on top of one of the cards, because then you can't open it. They can overlap the bottom flap, so if they're behind that, that's okay, but you don't want them to be on top of the cover. So there you go. That is my Mother's Day card with a lot of little tiny cards inside of there. You can use the same project for any other special person. You can do it for yourself. It's a way to journal. You can do this when Father's Day comes along, or you can do any parts of these elements. So remember, we did the collage, and we also made mini cards to glue down there. We learned how to put borders around things. We learned how to make quadrilaterals out of shapes that are not quadrilaterals. So there's a lot of elements in here that you can use for other art projects. I hope you enjoyed yourself. It is a lot of work to make something like this for your loved ones, but think about all the hard work they do for you. They do a lot for you. So Mother's Day and these special occasions are a great time to let them know how much you appreciate them by taking the time to make something that's very special for them. Hope you enjoy the rest of your week.